I'm David Daoud of Compliance Standards, and two global public companies, Iron Mountain and Sims Limited, both reported 70% year-over-year growth in their IT asset disposition divisions. 70%, not 8, not 12%, not even steady progress, 70%. And both companies did something even more important, in my opinion, than just reporting the growth. They reframed ITAD inside their earning narratives. They've talked about it as a central point. Iron Mountain told investors that asset lifecycle management is on track towards $850 million in 2026 revenue, growing 5 times faster than the rest of the company. They described it as a multi-billion-dollar opportunity. Sims elevated Sims Lifecycle Services from a background business inside a metals group to a hyperscale aligned growth engine. They're opening a 120,000 square foot facility in Ireland to essentially support concentrated cloud infrastructure demand. Public companies don't accidentally spotlight divisions in this way. When a number of factors align, let's say guidance, capital allocation, acquisitions, and executive focus align behind a segment, that segment has essentially become strategically central and core to the company's future. So what we're witnessing here is what I would consider the repricing of ITAD inside diversified platforms. So let me ask the real question, why? Well, the answer sits inside the data center, specifically inside memory modules. DDR supply has tightened as obviously semiconductor capacity shifts toward DDI5 for AI workloads. Hyperscale operators still run massive installed DDR4 infrastructure, and that mismatch creates sustained strength in the secondary markets. Iron Mountain disclosed that memory pricing alone created a $15 to $20 million positive swing in a single quarter within a $190 million segment. That means one component category materially moved earnings. Sims, for its part, described hyperscale clients accelerating decommissioning to recover DDR4 modules for reuse. Now pause there for a second. This is the signal. Decommissioning is now clearly part of supply chain strategy. Recovered hardware is influencing infrastructure continuity. And so ITAD has essentially now entered a compute cycle, not about scrap recovery, but about constrained component sourcing. And that changes a lot. Perhaps some would argue changes everything. So let's zoom out for a moment. So hyperscale decommissioning represents roughly 40% of Iron Mountain's ALM revenue. Within that segment, memory accounts for up to half of revenue during strong pricing periods. That is clear concentration that is aligned with cloud infrastructure refresh velocity and exposure to component markets. Sims' expansion in Ireland reinforces that point. Ireland is not generic European coverage. It's hyperscale density because Amazon Web Services, Microsoft, and Google maintain major European capacity there. ITAD capacity is now following compute clusters in what is infrastructure adjacency. So let me speak directly to the three groups that constitute the bulk of my client base. First, they're large integrated ITAD operators. Public earnings just validated your thesis. Scale, enterprise governance integration, and obviously hyperscale proximity drive growth. Iron Mountain now serves 360 Fortune 1000 clients with ALM services. That is 38% penetration inside its largest enterprise base. Enterprise buyers, as you all know, are consolidating ITAD into governance systems, chain of custody, audit defensibility, ESG reporting, distributed logistics, etc. Now, this rewards integrated platforms, but like anything else, there is a risk. 40% of ALM revenue is project-based hyperscale work. Memory pricing volatility, as you know, can swing quarterly results by 8 figures. Cross-sell penetration eventually hits ceilings. And growth narratives build on component tailwinds require disciplined execution when pricing normalizes. Now, for those of you who are mid-tier and or specialized operators, here's an interesting point. 62% of Fortune 1000 companies are not yet using Iron Mountain's ALM services, and that terrain is open. But you must be aware that you will not compete on incumbency. Instead, you will compete on precision. You have to be agile. You have to have a strong security posture. And of course, lots of remarketing intelligence. Hyperscale work remain concentrated among scale players, as we've reported many times, but enterprise refresh cycles remain highly fragmented. Now, the opportunity exists, but differentiation must be intentional. Thirdly, for private equity and acquisition-minded firms, Iron Mountain openly discussed acquisition multiple in the mid to high single-digit EBITDA range, with synergy reducing effective multiples below 5x. Three things. Consolidation is active, fragmentation is narrowing, finally, valuation expectations are obviously adjusting. So if you're not building towards scale, you're likely building towards acquisition. Now, let me step back for a moment for the broader interpretation. For years, as you know, ITAD was treated by public markets as operational hygiene. It was necessary, regulated, but clearly marginal. This past few quarters, data center expansion and this quarter's disclosures repositioned it alongside data centers and digital services inside corporate growth narratives. When a division grows 5 times faster than corporate average, it receives capital. When margins expand materially, it receives attention. When it ties directly to hyperscale compute cycles, it receives strategic status, of course. And so ITAD now sits inside cloud infrastructure conversation. And ITAD is becoming now an intricate part of cloud infrastructure. And that is, in my opinion, the shift. Well, the next 24 months obviously matter. DDR4 tightness will not define the industry permanently. Component cycles, as you know, normalize and AI refresh waves are going to evolve. And so the durable advantage will belong to companies that embed upstream into lifecycle planning, inventory visibility, governance systems, and refresh forecasting. SIMS signaled much deeper digital integration with hyperscaler asset lifecycle workflows. That embedding increases switching costs, obviously. And so if you control disposition planning, you will influence revenue timing and you will influence margin capture. So here's the closing thought. 2 public companies just repriced ITAD inside their portfolios. They did it through revenue growth. They did it through guidance. They did it through capital expansion and through acquisition strategy. All of this means, in the eyes of the public markets, which have now reclassified the sector as core infrastructure, is expect competitive intensity to rise. And so the question for every ITAD company out there is, are you positioned for infrastructural relevance? In other words, where the capital is moving. And as you know, capital movement reshape industries faster than any individual contract win ever could. Thank you for your time. Until our next talk, thanks again and goodbye.